letter was in the last issue of the first Mage series in 1986. Does Dave know what Matt Wagner meant when he wrote, Dave, Sim and I have been talking? Was there a planned collaboration that never happened? No, I don't think that was a collaboration. I had been invited and went to the end of Mage party at Matt Wagner's apartment in Philadelphia in 1986. The 1986 throws me because it's like my mental image of the end of Mage party wasn't that in the early 1980s, like 83, 84? And it's like, no, 86. So that one really threw me for a loop when I looked at that. I even had to check in the Overstreet guide. No, it's 1986, issue 15. In terms of talking about the layoff, I remember Matt and I talking about that at the party. Like, how long are you not going to draw comic books? And what are you going to draw when you come back? And how long are you going to do it? So the whole conversation that we just had about Hal Foster and the 26 years and versus sticking with it until you just can't do it properly anymore. Your last few pages are lousy. I think that's what Matt was talking about, because I was talking to him about that you can do your victory laps and you can decide that you're going to move on to something else, but years have a way of slipping away from you when you're not putting out a regular book. And you really are, you really have to bear that in mind. In 1986, I was definitely pitching self-publishing very hard. So I would have been talking to Matt about that at the party. Why don't you self-publish like you did? You did Mage through Kamiko. You've got an audience now. Do you really need to do a color book, or can it be a black and white book? Which would have made Joe Matt not very happy, who was one of Matt Wagner's roommates at the time and was his colorist. It's like, no, Matt's going to need a colorist on whatever book he's coming back on. Well, I don't know if that's true. Maybe Matt, come up with something that would be interesting in black and white. So, I'm stepping on people's toes. Same sort of thing. I was looking at the galley proofs, which were done for issue 15. I don't think the letters page was done at that point, but the comic book itself and some of the text was there. And I was sort of talking to Matt about it and reading it, looking at it at the same time. And Diana Schutz was there, who was, I don't think she was Matt's sister-in-law at the time. I don't know when Matt married Barbara Schutz, was Diana's older sister. But Diana was definitely at the party and was Matt's editor at Kamiko, and was saying, well, Matt's going to need an editor. It's like, what's the budget on this book going to be? If Aardvark Vanaheim publishes it, because that was the thing. It was like, okay, you can self-publish it. Why don't I just show you how to self-publish? Or I could maybe do a book through Aardvark Vanaheim, depending on what the book was and how interested I was in doing it. Somewhere up ahead. It's like, well, I don't know if Matt Wagner needs an editor. Like, you're Matt Wagner's editor, so of course you think Matt Wagner needs an editor. And, you know, we were getting obviously kind of huffy with each other because it's a party and we're drinking. You know, I don't really have a vested interest in not hurting Diana Schutz's feelings as Matt Wagner's editor. And he's going, well, Matt, you know, Matt definitely needs an editor. I'm doing corrections on his work all the time. I'm going, well, that's not an editor, that's a proofreader. It's, unless you're telling Matt, you have to draw this sequence differently. You know, look at Matt and go, does she ever tell you you have to draw a sequence differently? And Matt's going like, this isn't just my editor, this is my sister-in-law or my future sister-in-law. So I was always getting into trouble with people like that. And I'm reading the pages while, you know, Diana is sort of reading me the riot act on how necessary editors are, and particularly for people like that. And it's like, I found a typo while I'm reading the galley. And it's like I said, that's not how you spell that word. I show it to Diana. It's like, oh, no, that's cruel. You know, you're like, don't do that in the middle of a discussion about whether Matt Wagner needs an editor or not. And she looks at it, and sure enough, it's a typo. She turns to Matt and goes, get me a red pen. I'm going, what do you mean, get me a red pen? Why don't you go and find a red pen on your own if you're the editor? Why are you telling the artist to go and get you a red pen? So that's a very vivid memory that I have of that party, which was a really great party. It was one of those things that you don't know, well, okay, what is this going to be like? Is this worth flying all the way to Philadelphia just to go to a party? And it's like, yeah, it definitely was. It was a very cool party, and Matt was definitely a hot commodity at that point. And, Joe Matt was a great colorist. Lots of folks there. So
I met Matt Wagner in 1998 at the Wizard World convention in Chicago. It was Wizard bought the convention, the Chicago Comic-Con, and it was the second year they were doing it. And my buddies were, come on, we'll go to Chicago, it'll be great. So I brought my copy of Origins of Marvel Comics, because Stan Lee was going to be there for the 35th anniversary of the X-Men.
Okay.
And I'm like, maybe I can get Stan to sign it. And then I had this genius idea of, I'll get everybody that I run into that's a creator that's worked at Marvel to sign it first, and then when I present it to Stan, it'll be, you know, all these people that had jobs because of Stan.
Good.
And
excellent.
Graffiti Designs had done the Mage action figure, and they'd also done the Madman. So Mike Allred and Matt Wagner are signing at their booth, and I know Mike Allred had worked for Marvel, so I go up and I have him sign the book, and I turn to Matt Wagner, I'm like, have you worked for Marvel? And he quietly goes, I did their Christmas card one year. And I sheepishly say, well, you can sign if you want. And he just kind of looked at me like, you don't know my career, you don't know who I am, go away. He politely declined, and I walked away. But I went back and bought a Mage action figure, not knowing anything about the character, just because I felt like such a jerk.
It was okay. Let's see if I can top that. That's a good story. That's a very good Matt Wagner story. Eventually, telling tales out of school, Diana and I started sleeping together in 1992, which was like years later, and 93. It was about a year. And I was at a signing. I think it was actually, or an event in Vancouver, and Diana came up from Portland for the event, and we were staying at a very nice hotel, and it was there was a Peter Gabriel concert that night, and Diana and I are having drinks in the bar, and in walks Peter Gabriel and some hangers-on with Peter Gabriel. The concert was over, and of course they were coming to whatever the hotel was, Four Seasons or something like that, to have drinks. And it's like Diana's going like, "It's Peter Gabriel. You're like, he's right there. Like he's sitting at the table right behind you." It's like, okay, well, great, it's Peter Gabriel. And I don't know if people know this, but Matt Wagner is a dead ringer for Phil Collins. And Diana's like barely able to concentrate on my conversation because, you know, Peter Gabriel is like 12 feet away. And I said, "Why don't you go over to the table and say, my brother-in-law looks exactly like Phil Collins?" And she didn't. She decided not to do that. I thought it would be funny. So anyway, there you go. There you go, John. I hope that answers your question as to what I think the reference was. I think even at that time that Diana was writing Matt's letters pages for him. So the reference could be Diana writing, "Dave Sim and I, Matt Wagner, have been talking," and doing it sort of like through clenched teeth, because Dave Sim was talking about getting rid of Diana Schutz if necessary, and Matt Wagner not really needing her, which hasn't been the case.